Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of Holy Rust Revival. I'm Rob. This is Kip. Getting where it's hard to shake old Kip. He's got to be right on top of me all the time. Hey, I want to play on a Mustang or with a Mustang a little bit. What do you think? Let's do a little tinkering around. But I'm not going to work on this Mustang. We're going to work on that Mustang. Do you see that one out there? Y'all, I bought that parts Mustang a couple of weeks ago, and I really bought it for this fender right here. That fender, the whole car. I paid the same amount for that whole car as I would have paid for an aftermarket fender, and I've got an OEM fender. Get down, sit. I'm sorry. Blue heelers are just off the chain, and I hadn't seen him in 2 or 3 days, and he is off the chain, wanting to love, even though it's 10 o'clock at night and it's in the 30s and it's cold. And my goal is to get that Mustang in the shop tonight and then tinker on it a little bit later in the weekend, because I believe it's supposed to be raining, and that'll be a great shop night tomorrow night while it's raining, if I can get it in the shop. Now, the problem is, y'all, here, let me show you a little footage of where this Mustang came from. Uh, I'm not even going to say anything. I'm just going to turn the camera around. Got a tree growing up in a 67 Mustang. I'm looking for a few parts to finish off the Mustang project. And I know you're calling me crazy. I know. I can hear the thoughts in your mind. But I'm paying for this car when I would pay more for those two fenders right there. And this fender is terrible on my car. It is caved in all through there. Somebody started a race car and stripped it out completely and was in the process of doing so. And look, I'm told that this motor, oh, look at there. I can't get the hood up any more than that. But that's a 302 with a little race cam in it, with an AOD behind it. That's a automatic overdrive forward transmission. And something else, I don't know if you can see it, but it was originally a standard car. It's got a clutch pedal hanging over there. So there's enough parts in this car. Oh, and by the way, Ford 9-inch in the rear, and a relatively new gas tank underneath all of that stuff. And I don't even know. She wanted to take the tree out before I went down the road. I said, oh, no, you're not. I am going down the road just like that. Okay. Oh, these door skins, brand new, even though they have surface rust on them. They're brand new door skins, and that is actually a good fender right there as well. I had the hardest time getting that Mustang on the trailer. I didn't know why at the time, and honestly, it was in a little bit of a difficult situation. I had to snake my truck back through some bushes, and I mean, it was in a terrible place. And anyway, all I was concerned about was pulling that thing up on the trailer and getting it home. And I had the hardest time getting it on the trailer. I mean, the wheels kept turning back and forth, and I couldn't get it steered straight up on the trailer. And it was basically just one of those situations where it just went on 1 inch at a time until I finally got it there. And it wasn't until I got home till I figured out what was going on. Somebody had robbed the strut arm nuts off. And look, let me get the camera and take you in there and show you exactly what's going on. Y'all, I realize this is very difficult to see. We're out in the dark. I've got my headlamp on. And Let me show you something. That's not supposed to do that. Do you see the? I can't hardly kick it well enough to show you. Do you see that moving? That tire moving back and forth that way? That's not right. That is where the nut is supposed to go on the front, and as you can see, there is no nut, and neither is there one on this side over here. Do you see that? Okay, sorry for all the sketchy video. So anytime you try to move the car and those are not there, your lower control arms are just flapping in the breeze, and they can do whatever they want. And basically, it turns into a plow. So both front tires cock themselves back and kind of get themselves wedged like that, and there is no way to roll this car around with that tire moving like it is. Let me see if I can kick this tire one more time and show you. Okay, there you go. There you go. You see what's happening? You see the whole suspension back here moving, and this is not keeping it from moving. There. That explains what's going on. So my goal is I'm going to have to weld the washer on the back and weld a washer on the front to keep this front end from moving. And that's just what I'm going to have to do to get it in the shop. And I'll explain more why I'm going to do that here in just a moment. I pulled the old arm off the car, and this is what we're looking at. It's supposed to have a nut on this side for the adjustment back and forth on this side. Then you're supposed to have a rubber bushing. Then your frame of your car, the rubber bushing, and then another washer, then a nut. Now, the reason I'm welding this, I spent an hour over there in my hardware drawer looking for a nut for this, and I could find a 5/8 and I could get a 3/4. But guess what? This thread is 11/16, and it is an obsolete thread. I drove all over Meridian, Mississippi. I went to all the hardware stores. I even went to specialty nut and bolt stores that specialize in threaded bolts for industry. And everybody laughed at me. You cannot find an 11/16 nut anywhere, fine thread. 11/16 fine thread, 18 threads per inch. So I could have ordered one from CJ Pony Parts or Amazon, but it was, I think, $8 for one nut. Multiply that times 4 is what I need, $32, and then add about $20 shipping on top of that, and I'll have $100 in nuts on a car that I'm not really even planning on restoring, and I'll explain more about that in just a little bit. So our goal is just to get that front end where it won't flop around everywhere. In order to do that, I'm going to weld this washer where that nut would be, put the bushing on, and just to get it in the shop, I'm going to use a ratchet strap to pull the suspension to the point to where it's rigid against that. And once I get it in the shop, I may weld another washer on the front of that. So give me a minute. Let me weld this washer onto this strut rod. Oh, I can hear some of you now. Rob, you're about to learn an OEM part. Well, yeah, I am. Threads are stripped out, rusted, and a guy's just got to do what a guy's got to do here at the moment. This whole rod with nuts in the hardware is about $60. It can be bought again. I bought two brand new strut arms for that car over there just to make sure that the threads were good, and my front end alignment guy didn't complain about the thread stripping out. So yes, this has served a good life in that Mustang, but I'm about to burn it. It won't have any adjustment in it at all. I measured my other car, so I'm gonna put it in about the place that I've got that car there. So maybe it'll be halfway lined up. Who knows? Maybe so. Man, this is precision work right here. Precision work. I mean, okay. Got it tacked. Let me get this helmet on and get after it. That ought to hold. And look, I think it's very important to say this. Do not do this if you're going to be putting that car on the road. This is not safe. This is not DOT approved. Let's just say that, okay? This is Farm Boy approved. It meets all the qualifications of a feller on the farm, if you know what I mean. Okay. Okay, there it is. It's not pretty. I never said it was going to be pretty, but I tell you what, that washer is not going to move from the time that car gets from where it's sitting in this shop right here. Okay, let me let this cool a little bit. We're going to run out and put it on the car and get that ratchet strap ready to put on. I got both of the rods in. They basically bolt, can you see, right in there. But I still don't have nuts on the front. However, these ratchet straps are holding the bottom suspension in place, and that keeps that suspension from moving. You remember how over here I was kicking it earlier and it was moving back and forth? That no longer happens. So it almost looks like it's lined up, you know. Mike could go to town with that front end alignment. But anyway, again, don't put something on the road after doing what I have just done. My goal is to now get this car in that shop. And let me show you how I have to steer it. Okay. That is also Farm Boy approved. There is no steering wheel, but that pipe wrench will do just fine. Do just fine. All right, let me back this thing up and get it in the shop. Now, you do that on my Mustang when I get it painted, you're going to get a spanking. You hear me? Drove her all of 30 feet from where she's been resting the last couple of weeks to finally in the shop. And the front end alignment did well. Tell me that's not plowboy engineering right there. This car is a hot mess. And I told you earlier that I was not going to be bringing this car back. And y'all, I'm not scared of bringing a car back. I'm really not. But this car is in bad shape. Let's just start at the back and work our way to the front. And I think this will explain a lot of it right here. Y'all, there's a tree growing up through the rear bumper. And the best I can tell, it's a sweet gum, okay? And a sweet gum is a relatively fast-growing tree. I can kind of tell by the bark right here. However, look how thick it was at the base. I'm thinking 6 to 8 inches, okay? So it had to take 2 or 3 years for that sweet gum to even come up between here. And I don't know how many years it took to grow it 6 inches in diameter at the base. So this car has been sitting in the woods for a long time. Let's put it, I'm going to put it at 15 years. For a tree to have grown, I don't know how tall it ended up being, but that big at the base and coming through there had to be 15 years at least. So that just tells you it's been sitting a long time. The trunk lid is completely gone. There is no salvaging the trunk lid. That's how bad it is. Inside is actually not too bad back here in the quarters. I'm thinking at some point somebody may have replaced the quarter panels. But I have seen worse. I've seen worse. I've seen worse right here. It does have a lot of crusty stuff. So they're not good. The quarter panels are not good, even though they look okay. Good roof. Actually, they're bad about rusting down here in these corners, so it's not even bad there. Kip, what are you doing, son? Coming up through the gas tank hole. You're just about a lunatic. He'll do anything to be beside me. All right, so here's a good thing. Somebody at some point put new door skins, but they didn't paint it. They didn't even prime it. And so it's got surface rust. Really, really thick surface rust on it. I don't think I can get this door open. No, we'll go around. But y'all, inside the old cow there is completely rotten. I've looked from underneath and it's gone, just gone. So all of that would have to be redone. And here's my biggest concern: the frame rails in this car. Y'all, they're that bad all the way from the front to the back. And it's just, I would never ever feel safe ever putting this car back on the road. It just wouldn't be good. And look, I wouldn't have this channel, Holy Rust Revival, if I was scared of bringing stuff back. And I'm not scared of it. And I've brought worse back probably than this. But I vowed after doing that I would not do it again because it was just too much work. Okay, let's see what Kip is uncovering in here. Oh, Kip, what do you have? It is a hot, hot mess, y'all. There, see concrete over there? You can see the floor. Get down. Get down so people can see. Concrete all the way. Not even a sliver of floorboard on that side other than the seat pan. And honestly, I haven't even uncovered it here, but look, stuff is falling through already. There's just I hate to even be digging around in this mess. No telling what kind of disease is running around in this car for having set up so long. Anyway, it's a royal mess. The wiring is a mess. Here's the part of the cowl I was telling you about. That's the vent that's supposed to be mounted up underneath in here, but it has fallen down in the floorboard. Oh, by the way, it was originally a standard car. There's a clutch pedal, brake pedal. So it originally had a standard transmission in it. Y'all, it's just a lot of work to bring this thing back. And like I said, the frame rails in it are just in terrible, terrible shape. But let me show you something good. Here's a good thing about this car. This is another reason why I like it and why I have it. Let me get under here. That, my friends, is an actual Ford 9-inch. For some reason, back in the day, Ford was putting Ford 8 inches in these Mustangs. I don't know if they were just saving costs, but my blue car over there has a Ford 8-inch. This has a Ford 9-inch. So this axle will be coming out and going into the car that I'm building, because a Ford 9-inch just has more aftermarket parts, and it's just a stronger axle, better spline count all around. Well, by the way, the hinges are gone. So I am going to put the camera down for a moment so that I can heave ho on this old hood. I would rather it be cold than hot. I can't stand a sweat in the shop. And I've done a whole lot of that over the summer. So I'm very thankful for where it is right now. Okay, let's see if I can throw my back out. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay. Yep, yep, yep. Watch out, Kip. Let's just gingerly set that right there. Woo! So, y'all, the story I got was that somebody had started making a race car out of this thing. Welded some good old expanded metal in here, of course, stripped the interior out, and supposedly this is a 302. It does have an Edelbrock intake, and this, y'all, is just the icing on the cake. This is an AC Delco distributor that fits a 302 or a 289 small block Ford. Well, HEI distributor. So that right there, that little jewel is worth about, I don't know, $300 or $400 just within itself. So that is probably going to end up going, in one of these cars. So let me get you in here. Let me get you in here so you can see it. And the best I can tell, they dropped this motor and trans in there and didn't hook anything up. Well, I'll take that back. Let's see. It appears, no, the distributor is not even hooked up to anything. I mean, it literally just has that one wire coming out, and that's it. Yep. Oh, go it. Stay where you are. I need no help up here. Alternator. I did reach in it, y'all, when I got the car and attempted to spin. And it is stiff, but I did see the crank spin just a little bit, but that's not our goal tonight. Our goal was just to get this thing in the shop. And we have done that. So you see the old Edelbrock intake. It did have a Holly. Now, when I got home, the Holly carburetor was basically just sitting on there. You can see that the dirt daubers have closed the holes up, and I just set the Holly off and stuck 2 rags in the intake. And it's not too terribly dirty down in there. I think that Holly carburetor sitting on there in the past had kind of sort of protected the inside of the engine. I wonder if there's anything in here. Surely it's dry. Yeah, it's dry as a bone. Dry as one of Kip's old bones that he drags around in the yard. What about oil? You know what? It is overfilled, but that oil doesn't look like it's ever been run. It's certainly not black, that's for sure. And I'm a little concerned about it being high like that. At least it doesn't look milky, but it could have had new oil in it. And there could be water in the bottom side of the block. I think it's going to be prudent to put fresh oil in it and drain that oil before we attempt to spin this thing over. How does that look? Oh, there's red stuff. It's red. Here, you lick it. Tell me what you think. Is it good fluid? Get down. Get down. Come on, get down. Crazy dog. Just wants to be with me all the time. That's all he wants. Okay, here's another little special thing. Look at those headers. There's some nice headers. And they look good. They don't seem to be rusted out. Now, I already have a set of headers for this 289. You see it over there, stuck in the corner? So I've already got a good set of headers, but here's what the goal is here. I want to see if this motor will run. And if it will, it might be a good candidate for Braden's Mustang. I don't know. I don't know. It just depends on how it runs. I was told that it had an AOD in it, which is an overdrive transmission, but it does not. That is a C4, which is the same transmission that I have already rebuilt. It's going to be connected to that 289. And by the way, have you seen my 289? She's pretty. She's pretty. Look at there. Look at that. Now, somebody had painted this thing before I got it, and it's like Chevrolet orange. I'm not sure what they were thinking, but there's polished aluminum water pump, polished aluminum chrome valve covers, and all kind of pretty stuff. And don't you know that that beautiful HEI distributor would go wonderful right there on this engine. So I've got to repaint this motor. We got to get it back to the Ford blue and slide it in the car a little bit later on. But anyway, there's a lot of good parts here that I can use over there. And also, if it's a good block, it runs good, we'll put it in Braden's car. And like I said, somebody was trying to make a race car out of this thing, so I have no idea what was done internally in this engine. It might be a hot little motor inside. Who knows? Radiators there. Original fan. I don't know much else to say about it other than, y'all, look, continue to look at how rotten this whole thing is. I mean, it is literally just every bit, every inch of this thing is just crusty rotten. So I don't feel so bad about not bringing this Mustang back. It is just terrible. Just, y'all, I hadn't seen much worse. I mean, just look at that. The frame rail down here is in bad shape. Y'all, yep. It is the next day, probably about midday on a Saturday. Fella's already been to town. He's gotten chicken feed and dog food and, you know, a few odds and ends supplies that he needs from town. So our day is about halfway gone, and there's still some good daylight and some good time before the rain comes in this afternoon. So I'm still going to do some patchy videos when I have 10 minutes here and there. But I may just have to set things down and get some stuff done, you know, for the rain. But later on tonight, we'll work. But for the next few minutes that I have here right before lunch, it's just kind of too quick for lunch to actually start something new. I'm going to take the air hose and blow some stuff off here and try to gingerly not get things down in the engine. But there's a whole lot of acorns and sticks and all the stuff that has been gathered for the last 20 years, 15 to 20 years on top of this engine. Got to remember to close my mouth while I'm doing this. Extra parts. A lot of extra bolts just laying down in here. I'm telling you folks, they literally just set this motor in here and hadn't hooked anything up. Here's something that's got a note on it. Coil plus. Hey, there we go. We might actually have fire from the key. We'll have to try that out later. I'm just so excited, y'all. I can't keep my mouth shut. You know, I just don't know what I'm getting into here. That's what I kind of like about projects like this that have been forgotten for so long. I'm sure there's an issue why it didn't continue. We don't know if that's the axle, the motor, the transmission, what it is. But it's kind of interesting to be able to find this out. And regardless if this motor doesn't run, here's a beautiful Edelbrock intake right there, HEI distributor, exhaust, um, headers. I mean, there's just a ton of parts here, that can be used in a great fashion. Yep, where are you? When it gets dirty, you leave. You can actually see the motor without all the junk on top of it. Somebody was taking great care in putting this together at some point in time in the past, I do believe. But now all the stuff is on my shop floor. Oh, that's nice. That's very nice. All right, so look, the only thing I jumped ahead of y'all and did was as soon as I brought it home, I didn't even try to spin it over. I didn't do anything to it. But what I like to do is I like to just pull plugs and look. And all of the spark plugs are hand tight in the cylinders. And while I took each one out, I put mystery oil, Marvel mystery oil, down in the cylinders and just let it sit. So it looks a little oily, and that's the reason why. So what I'm going to do the next few minutes is just pull all these plugs back out and set them up here on the cowl. Then we're going to get a wrench and see if we can get a full rotation. Oh, does this old motor want to run or not? Kip, I don't know. It might have just thought it was tired and ready to go to the house. On the other hand, it might be wanting to fire up and let it rip, Tater Chip. Oh my goodness, I've got a visitor. I'm so excited. Braden, my youngest son, just pulled up. And he was kind of sort of interested in this motor because we built a 67 Mustang for him, I don't know, 2 years ago. And it's got a straight 6-cylinder engine in it. And I think he's got a vested interest in eyeballing this motor to see what happens. He might like to ease it off in his Mustang. I don't know. But when we built his car, we put all the proper torque boxes and everything that a 6-cylinder car didn't have in order to put a V8 in it. So the potential is there. He's got a good transmission. So yeah. Hey Braden. How you doing? Good. Well, I just started a little something here, blew the engine off, and I pulled the spark plugs back out, and that's as far as I've gotten. Okay. So I think now what I want to do is I want to put a socket on that crankshaft down there and see if we can get a full rotation out of this engine. I have a videographer now. Hey, Braden. All right. So 15/16 socket. Going to put it on that crankshaft bolt down there and see if we can get any movement out of this engine. Now remember, all I've done to it is just put penetrating oil in the cylinders. And that was a combination of acetone and transmission fluid is what I put down in there. And some other goodies. I think I put some Marvel mystery oil in there and just all kind of good stuff to soak on down deep. So, you ready for a moment of truth, Braden? Let's see if this old motor will spin. Now, I have suspicion that water has gotten in some of the back cylinders. Okay, there we go. That's a good sign. Feels, can you hear it? It sounds a little dry, but we're spinning. Ooh, you hear some crunchy? I heard just a little bit of crunchy. Okay, well, that's some fluid coming out of the back cylinder back there. Oh, that's freeing up a whole lot better. whatever it's gone through, it is a whole lot freer than it was before. I think this one back cylinder, and because the car sits at an angle, I mean, actually the engine sits at an angle back, when water goes in the engine, it tends to go to those back cylinders. So if there is a questionable cylinder, it would be in the back. I don't know, Braden, that's feeling awfully good. Nice. That's feeling really free now. I think maybe one cylinder might have had a little bit of, you hear a little crunchy crunch right there. Actually, I think that might be, I might be hearing that in the distributor. I haven't even taken that off to look at it yet. I don't hear any mechanical banging going on anywhere, so that's good. Let me see if I can spin it a little bit the other way. Well, y'all, we've got a free engine. It doesn't sound too terribly bad. Now, Braden, one thing I noticed last night is that the oil level is about, I don't know, maybe a quart high, which concerns me slightly. Somebody might have put too much oil in it, or there could be water that's found its way down in the bottom of the crankcase, and the oil has risen while the water sinks to the bottom. So I think my next step is potentially get under the car a little bit, pull the oil plug, and see if any water comes out, because I really don't want to spin this engine over and send water through it. But that oil looks good. It looks like it's never been cranked before. So I've got the oil pan nut loose. So let's see if any water comes out. I don't know how well you can see what's going on here. It's not much coming out at all. Okay, I was afraid of that. There's water. Yep, there's lots of water. Yeah, okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and let this drain. Oh my goodness. There's a big old chunk that just came out. Well, there's chunks of oil and water still coming out. So, I mean, it wasn't a super amount of water, but Brandon, I'm gonna need something sludgy, something to stick up in the sludge.
Okay, like a screwdriver?
There must be a whole lot of sludge. Yeah, screwdriver. That's not good. That means there's a whole lot of goop. Maybe more water in there than what I'm anticipating. I mean, for that oil to look so good on the dipstick and look so terrible coming out down here. Okay, I think we're getting into oil now. Sure is coming out slow, but it's been a cold night, you know. I think on this one, what we're going to need to do is to let it drain. Just sit here and drain, 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 and then put some diesel fuel in this thing. Clean as much sludge out as we can. One thing's for sure, I'm glad I didn't spin this engine over. But see, that's all oil now. It's just got a lot of lubricity to it. How do you like that word, Braden?
The way you use it.
I think I used it properly. Yeah. Braden, I'm so glad you're here. Got somebody to distract Kip now. And I appreciate that. All right, so we're letting the oil pan drain. We went ahead and pulled the oil filter, and it has sludge in it, water type sludge. We're also, while it's draining, go ahead and go pull the valve cover since it's so easily accessible and see what it looks like underneath there. Braden's gonna pop that back off. I may wash this with diesel, put it back on. The ultimate goal is to not spend a dime on any of this until we know that it's in potentially good running shape or can run. So that's what we're trying to do. I know it might not be good to throw that back on there, but again, we're not spending a dime right now. Okay, very last bolt before we take the valve cover off. This is going to be as much of a surprise to you as it is to us. Hopefully it'll be clean as a pin, Braden. What do you think? It's been sitting 20 years. What's it going to be? Well, I mean, it isn't bad, is it?
No, like any rust pits or anything like that. It looks
No,
pretty clean.
no sludge up here.
Honestly, it looks pretty nice and black.
It really does. We got a double nut. Uh-oh. Now, you know, the hydraulic lifters are not pumped up. So we can't really judge that right now, the slack and unless we have a stuck valve. You know what? I'm going to put my wrench back on here. We're going to turn through the rotation and let's see if all of them move. Let's go through a rotation, if I can find it, and watch all of our valves, Braden, and let's see if things are moving. This one was really loose. So let's watch it. Okay. So it is moving down, isn't it? What about, did this one move? It did. I think they're all, no stuck valves, I don't think. Oops. Well, what do you think? All moving? Acetone transmission fluid mix. We'll spray it on the valve stems and guides just to start giving it a little lubrication it hasn't had in a long time. I'm pleasantly surprised, Brady. I hope we're as pleasantly surprised as the other side. Let's do the other side, okay?
All right.
So I'm just going to pour some diesel fuel down in this engine. Of course, it's going from here down to the crankcase. Hopefully, you can see it coming out down there. It's going to wash a little bit of that sludge out that we encountered. But really, I think the motor is clean. It just got a little bit of sitting 20 years. It got a little moisture buildup in it, but it hadn't been too extreme. Put the valve covers back on. Looked like the whole valve train was moving. And we threw a lot of diesel down the gut. That diesel is going down through there, hitting the oil pan, hopefully taking a lot of that sludge out with it. So we're going to continue to let that drain for a little while. Now we're going to see if maybe we can get the starter to work. So we do have a ground cable on the engine. We do have a positive cable, and we do have a cable going from the solenoid down to the starter. I'm not giving a lot of hope for this solenoid, Braden. It doesn't look good, but we don't know till we try, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear all that crunching, Braden? Oh my goodness. I don't know if it's gonna hold my battery up. Woo, that's bad. Let's turn this around. Maybe the cable will hold the battery in. What do you think about that? You know what? Let me turn that back around. I don't need that positive cable over here near the radiator support. Goodness. I don't know if anything's gonna hold that battery in. I may have to wedge a piece of wood right down in there. Because it is one hot mess right over here. What are the chances that I would short from here to the solenoid and this thing actually turn over? What are the chances, Brady?
I don't know.
I'd say 20%,
Okay.
23%. I don't know, the more I think about it, 12%. Let's see what happens right here. I'm gonna short from the positive. Okay, the solenoid is making noise. The solenoid actually seems to be working. So we either have a bad connection right here, or our starter is locked up. I'm going to say our starter's probably locked up. If this has been sitting for 20-something years, how can you expect that old starter to... Because that solenoid is excited. There's nothing happening past the solenoid down to the starter. So let me get what I may do is take this off and short this right to the positive and see if we can't make something happen there. My all day started out kind of cold. Okay, this is going straight to the starter. Let's see what happens right here. Okay, it's acting like there's a path of electrical flow, because it's arcing pretty good bit over here on the battery. But I'll guarantee you the bushings are probably frozen up in that starter. Starter seems to be locked up. So I'm gonna get underneath and do the Michael Jackson to it. Let's beat it, by the way. We'll beat the starter and see if I can't work it loose a little bit. And Braden, you're gonna take this cable and touch it to that post right there, okay? All right, you ready? Oh, I bet Michael Jackson didn't have to climb on the floor with a dog in his face. Get out of the way. Get out of the way. Braden's done got you hyped up. Done got you. Quit. Got you all hyped up. Oh. Hey! Just do that. Huh?
There you go.
Keep on. All right, it's spinning. So let me find the plug and let's put some oil in this thing. We got a little excited. We put the plug back in the oil pan, put oil in the crankcase, turned it over a time or two, and all of a sudden we had a gully washer over here. And I made a bad decision I should not have made. I decided to take the old oil filter off, put it back on. You know, I kind of flushed it out a little bit. But let's see if you can see this. It sprung a leak somewhere over here in this rusty area. And thank goodness that's where it was leaking. And good news is we're pumping oil. So that's great news. It was sludgy. Look at that mess right there. It's got a milky finish to it. So I'm convinced that a lot of that was in this old filter. So I'm kind of glad it didn't pump through the rest of the engine. We've got an old Motorcraft FL1A on there now that I had sitting over there on the shelf. It has a little age to it, but it never has been used. So it's on there now. Okay, we've got our oil level back up to where it should be. Put that on, Brandon, right there. The next place I think we're going to spring a leak, I hope, is where the oil pressure sending unit goes in. And there's no, well, actually, Brady's got a plug in it.
Okay.
So I thought it was open, but it actually has a plug. So that's good. Maybe we won't leak there. But I was kind of hoping it would, so I would know it was getting there. But I tell you what, Braden, let's spin it over some. See if we see any more leaks anywhere else. There's a knocking sound, and it sounds like it's in the starter, maybe a rusty place on the flex. Getting hot over there. Hold on, just let it sit a minute. You know, I thought about something. If this motor was just put in there and sat down and never cranked, there's a possibility there might not be nuts on the torque converter. If they've never fired it up, they might have gotten to a point to where that was the next thing to do. That might be what that rattling sound is. It's the torque converter just kind of rattling on the flex plate. It just kind of turns over, cocks over to the side. Yep, that one's already off. Just push down, push down. There you go. All right. Push down and turn with this one. There it goes. I'm gonna tell you what, man. That distributor has never been used. That is a brand stinking new distributor. Somebody stuck that in there and that's it. It's never been used. How did those dirt gobblers get up in there? It's got some dirt dauber lurish in there. I don't even think this hardly needs cleaning, to be honest with you. I mean, look how clean that thing is. Probably could stand a little blowing out. There's the notches right on that side. All it really needs to happen is this wire right here needs to provide juice to the distributor, and it can go in right there. So that's like you're turning the switch key on. And we'll put a spark plug in here. Now this HEI has got some kind of energy, Brady. So I'm gonna stick it on that bolt and ground it out right there. And are you ready to see if we got spark?
Okay, do I need to touch?
Touch it and turn the engine over. Alright, like this here. Okay, okay. Getting fire on the coil. Alright. That's good, I think. Plug wire. All right, shock me, baby.
Yeah.
We got spark.
Okay. Do we want to try with this one just to make sure it wasn't?
Yeah, I'll see if it was that plug wire.
Plug wire. Ready?
Yep. Got spark. Got spark. We just might have been a bad plug wire.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Maybe next time we should just try the simplest option.
Yes, you're right, Brady. Keep it simple, stupid. Because the Chevy guy is getting familiar with this old Ford stuff, okay? But I said one was over there, and one is actually here. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And the reason that I was a little confused with this one being number 1 is the firing order is actually 1, 5, 4, 2, and I'm not quite sure from there. I have to look back on the diagram. But anyway, 5 fires right after number 1, okay? So this one fires, then it comes over here and fires this one. So that's why I was a little confused thinking that the line was on number 5 at top dead center, but it's so close that you would get confused to think that. So now what we're doing is Braden put the valve cover back on, and I've got 3 spark plugs in, and I made sure they had fire before I put them in. And I'm just continuing that process all the way around, sticking plugs in, making sure they fire. And I think we're going to need to be thinking about fuel next. Throw something down the gut of this thing and see what happens. Anyway, give us a minute and we'll be back with you after we get all of that wired up and done. Spark plug in every hole, and every spark plug is sparking. So we have spark, we have compression. The last combination to that whole thing is the air-fuel mixture. So we need fuel. Dirt daubers have really done a great job of building in these holes right here. So I'm going to take a minute with the vacuum cleaner and this pick and clean these carburetor mount holes out. Yep. So one of the best ways to clean these holes out is to kind of get down there and break the stuff loose and blow across the top of them, create a Venturi effect, and stuff will pull up out of there. Did you see that? I actually stuck a stick down in there and it broke off, and I blew across the top of it and it created a low pressure, and the stick kind of floated out of the hole. So that's the same thing that happens in a carburetor. As it's pulling air across there, that Venturi effect is what's pulling the fuel out of the bowl, creating a vacuum and mixing the air and the fuel together. There's your science lesson for today. Okay, I bought some new studs that hopefully will work. Let me go see if I can find those and put those in here. Tighten my double nut up there. Okay, that one is in. Come on. Stuff like that makes me nervous. There's been a lot of motors destroyed by stuff that has just fallen down in the intake and rolled down into a cylinder. And I can't promise you that has not happened here. There's a lot of potential for that. Yes, it is. Something could have rolled in there 10 years ago that nobody's ever even known about. It's just a good old gamble we're having to take. The wind is kicking up. I think the storms are heading our way. Okay, well, anybody see a reason why we cannot put a carburetor on here? Kip, what do you think? You gotta speak up, Bubs. I'll forever hold you peace. I happen to have a Holly 600, I believe it is, that was in my parts pile over here. There was one that came on this engine, but the butterflies are completely stove up, and I pulled one out of my parts bin and went through it to make sure that it was okay. So let me grab it and put it on right quick. Okay, folks, there's the Holly carburetor. And we've got our first blood of the project. I was simply just setting it down on there, and my finger got caught between the threads and the carburetor over here on this side and drew a little blood. But that's okay. A good project's not a good project unless you draw blood. On this carburetor, all I have is a gasket underneath. I'm sure it needs a spacer, but we ain't got one, and I'm not spending any money. Here's where we are. We've got spark on all the spark plugs. We've got a carburetor on. We've got the fuel bowls filled up with fuel. On these Hollies, you can pour gas in these holes right here and fill the fuel bowls up. So we have that. I do know that the pump on this carburetor is dumping fuel on the outside instead of pumping fuel on the inside. So we know we have that issue. But I don't, Brandon, I'm nervous about this one. I don't know why I'm so nervous. Look, this thing's been sitting for 20 years. We'll say 20 years, 15 to 20. It has not fired up. And I don't know, I'm just nervous. I got butterflies. But it's time to get rid of the butterflies. Are you ready, Braden?
I guess so.
Okay, so I've got this in case I need to throw some fire out real quick. Let's get this test light out of the way. So if it catches on fire, I won't burn it up. Okay, I just put the hot fire on the distributor. Now, Braden, something bad goes wrong, just pull that wire right there. And that kills the distributor. Yep. Okay. Let's see what happens.
Ready?
Yeah.
It's going. You ready to go?
Hold on. Let me give it a little juice.
All right.
Little go juice. Okay, let's try it. All right, hold on. That's got a little more.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, battery's about to fall out. It wants to. Okay.
Burn up over here.
About to burn up over there. All right, all right. Okay, let's put a little choke on there. Let's see what happens right there. All right. All right, hold up. I think it's just really thirsty. It's dry. Okay. Little oil. Yeah, it's got a little oil in it. All right, is it too hot for you?
Ready?
Yeah. Alright. I think it's just dry. Woo! That gave it a lot to drink.
Ready?
I guess. All right. No, so that's good. That's a good idea. Good old zip ties. They'll about fix anything up. There we go. That battery's in there for good now. We've let the battery charge a little bit, and we found out that we're not grounded well in our distributor in the block. So worked on that a little bit, and we think we might be ready to fire off. All right, Braden. Well, it might have been there. Okay. I don't think the throttle is engaging very well. All right, go ahead. I think I counted all 8 that time.
You try one more time? So it'll go a little longer?
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let me give it some juice. Okay.
Just go in there for a little bit.
All right. Let's be patient, Braden. I think it's best that we walk away at this moment pull the switch key out. Let's let our battery get fully charged. Let's let the starter cool off, because there's no doubt that thing's probably cooking hot down there. Let's go do a few chores and then come back later and see if we can fire off, okay? All right, so Braden and I have taken a break for a while. He went to the wood shop and made a chopping block. Isn't that what you made? Is that what you call it? Chopping block out of some cypress. I went into the meat processing room and processed 3 deer. So we've both been busy. As you can see, it's dark outside. We've let the battery charger charge. We've let the starter cool off. So we're going to give it a shot now and see what happens. Woo, give it some juice down the guzzle. Okay.
Ready?
Let's give it a shot. I think I heard all 8, Brady. Yeah. I think I did. Boy, I sure wish there was a way it would kick off and stay running. I think I actually hear. Hey!
Oh, is the pump working now?
I think the pump's working. Let me look down in there and see. Oh, the light's going out. I hear something happening. I don't know if it's air or fuel.
So we might be out of fuel
Might be.
in the
Yeah.
reservoirs.
Yeah. Yeah. We might. Let's just do it again. I want to hear that again. I want to hear all 8.
How long do you want it to go?
What do you mean?
As soon as it hits, take it off?
Take that wire off. Yeah. That's the starting wire.
Yeah, but it's not going to settle, is it?
Huh?
It's not going to just idle, is it?
No, I don't think it will.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay. This has a manual choke, by the way.
Okay.
Let's try it with the choke on, see if it won't.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
That was almost instant.
Yeah. All right. Put a little more juice in the guzzle. I think our timing is right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yep. Did you hear something? You hiccuped. I mean, 20 years, if you hadn't moved and run, you would hiccup too, you know? I'm not done yet, Brady.
Oh, yeah? You still ready?
Yeah, let's try it. You know, I wonder if we don't have a sticking valve, because it's not just hitting off, you know. I think it's getting better. I think the oil is building up in the lifters, and
So we're not getting fuel in one?
well, I'd like for it just to purr off, you know.
Yeah. It's
Instead
probably
of
kicking itself.
as labored as it is, it kind of sort of tells me we're hitting on most of our cylinders, but it's potential that we're not hitting on 1 or 2. Now, I don't know if that's a spark issue or a compression issue.
You say, well, we've got a lot of open holes and not a lot of oil.
Well, that one wasn't even still connected. And that's not the right.
We have a lot of things
Yeah,
that could be the issue.
it is. It is things that, you know, we're not spending money on, so to speak. We're gonna try it one more time, Brady.
Okay.
After we put that plug on there. And it could be that I don't have good seats on plugs down below. You know,
And we got old plugs, wires that don't connect very well.
20-year-old wires.
So,
Okay.
ready?
Yep. Fired off that time.
Yep.
I do. I think it did. That's getting challenging over there.
It sounded different.
Like
Not, more like a. It didn't sound as big of a boom.
Yeah.
You know, as it
Yeah.
did before.
I think things are loosening up. You want to do it again?
I don't care. Use the rest of that gas over here.
This is my chainsaw gas.
I know.
We're just lubricating it good.
Yeah, this thing's sticking to that.
Yep. Alright, go ahead.
Lights working.
Yeah, but I'm not finding a consistent spark. I
Yeah.
want to do it again and watch that. 'Cause I think our ground is still messing up.
Ready?
Yeah.
It's like every two.
Yeah. So here's where I think we need to be right now. I think it's good. I mean, we've made progress today to hear a motor run. I think it would be worth springing some money for a solenoid, especially if I buy a good one and then I can use it over here on this Mustang. You know, I don't think I have one for the Mustang over here.
Maybe good spark or one or two
Good
spark
plug
plugs.
wires, because I am planning on using this distributor on my car. So
On your car?
yeah,
Okay.
I could go ahead and buy a decent set of plug wires.
Yeah.
We might even spring for a good carburetor gasket. We're probably getting some vacuum leaks. Feel header pipes over there and see which ones feel warmer than the other. See, number 8 over here feels cold as ice.
It's
Number
it's
7 is warm.
4 is warm. 3 is super like the hottest.
Yeah.
2 is about the same as the other one. 1 is cold.
So 1 and 8 are cold. I wonder if I put this on here, if we can see if we're sparking. Let's try it and see. See if our light comes on. We could have bad plugs.
Yeah.
You know.
Ready?
Yeah. Okay, it's sparking. Or we could have a dead cylinder. You said number 1 is cold?
Which is the one we've been testing. So also we don't have constant gas flow, or
So we're gonna run a compression test on cylinder number 8. It's the very back one. I'm getting used to this forward thing. Number 8 on the back. This one we felt like might have been the weak cylinder. So Braden, fire us around and let's see what we got. Is everything out of the way? Don't put the ignition in.
oh yeah.
Yeah. Let's just turn it over. That's not good, Braden.
Is it not compressing, huh?
Not compressing well. It's only 30 psi. That's not good. Not good. So the question now is it a valve issue or a ring issue? You know how you know? You want to know how you know? I'm glad you asked, Brady. We're going to take this out, and we're going to put oil in that cylinder. And if the compression raises, that means it's a ring problem.
Okay.
If it does not raise, that means it is a valve problem. So let's cross our fingers that it doesn't raise.
Okay. Okay.
All right, let that make its way down. I really hope that it's maybe a sticking valve. But with 30 psi, okay, we let oil get in the cylinder. And this time, if we crank and it goes above 30, that means we have a ring problem. If it stays at 30, it's probably a stuck valve. So let's give it a shot, Braden. See what happens. That's not good news. It's 60 psi. So that means the oil is compensating for the slack in the rings. I mean, it could be that it's got stuck rings,
Yeah.
you know, and it's possible that, you know, running it a little bit, if we could ever get it to run enough, that it would they would unstick or unfreeze. What do you think, Kip? I know you wanted it to run. I know. I could see it in your eyes. I could. Yes, sir. I could see it in your eyes. But I don't know if we're going to run tonight. We've got to do a little tinker-doodling. You know what I mean? Just a little tinker-doodling to make things happen. We do. We do. Okay. Let's give it one more rumble. I think we're about done. Did I put number one plug back on? Now that we got, you know, 90 psi compression. Yeah, you can move that battery charger if you want to. Okay. Ready for a shot. Something fly out on you?
Paint chips.
So y'all, the Weekend Warrior project is about done for the weekend. It's Sunday evening, and I'm about to head to a Christmas cantata at my parents' church because my mother is doing the orating of the cantata. But anyway, look, I really had it in the back of my mind to get this thing running this weekend and put it out in the pasture and just do donuts and have a good time with it to commemorate the life of this old Mustang. That's not going to happen, and I sincerely apologize. We learned a lot about this car this weekend. Originally, I was told it had a 302 with an AOD behind it. Come to find out, it is a 289, period correct, and I think it may be the original engine that came in this car. The manufacture date on the casting of the block is November of 1966. And it would stand to reason that for a 67 Mustang, the engine block would be cast a couple of weeks ahead of the production of the car. So the date is putting this motor as the original engine in this car. Now, the C4 transmission is not original because this car originally had a standard transmission in it. However, I think we're going to pause right where we are because we know that there's sludge in the engine. We did find out that a few of the header pipes some were warmer, some were colder than others. Two of them were ice cold, and after doing a compression check on them, they were 30 psi and less. When we put oil in there, they would jump up about 20 psi. So we know we have stuck rings in at least two of the cylinders, and there's about three others that are weak and two that are very strong. So we could continue to crank and crank on this thing, but I'll be honest with you, there's too many cylinders that are pulling dead weight to get this engine to run and to run efficiently. So here's where we are. Braden, my son, who was helping me, has a 67 Mustang that we built together over 4 years. It is a 67, about the same year model. Well, it is the same year model as this one and about the same manufacture date as this one. So we're going to save on that old 289 that's in there. He's got a very good transmission in his car, C4. But I think this 289 is a period correct rebuildable core. And that's really kind of important to have an engine for that year model to fit that car. And also we have a 5-lug rear end because, you know, the 6 cylinders came with 4 lugs on the wheel pattern. And we've got all the spindles. We've got everything necessary from this car to convert his to a V8 car and have OEM parts in it all the way through with period correct stampings. So that's going to be important. And that's what is going to be the sacrifice for this car. And plus, it's going to sacrifice a few other things to go into my project over there as well. But I tell you what, I'm going to keep the tree. There's no doubt about it. When I get my new shop built and the man cave that I put in there, we might come up with some creative wall art, so to speak, with this old Mustang. So it's going to give. It's going to give in a lot of great and wonderful ways, even though it is too far gone body-wise to bring it back. We're gonna utilize it to its fullest potential in all the parts that it has, as well as the body. All right. So y'all, thank you for watching. And if I don't get to talk to you again, it's about mid-December and it's almost Christmas time. Just remember the reason for this season. And that reason is the Christ who is in Christmas. He was born here on this earth, lived a perfect life, died on a terrible cross for mine and your sins, so that we may have eternal life. So, hey, give thanks. Give thanks for the birth of our Savior this Christmas season. Hey, Merry Christmas. Love you guys. Thank you so much for watching.